refuting the claim of the fact that competitive video games is a sport. So my opponent had three secondary claims in regards to sports are defined as a specific criteria. Esports meet these criteria, and some sports don't have physical interaction engaged in them. So my response to the first claim, so I'm going to talk about the claim in which sports are defined by a specific criteria. My problem with this claim is that my opponent did not provide enough information regarding how sports are defined. These claims all debate on the guidelines of three main topics. The main topics included the skill, whether they require teamwork, or whether they are popular. So I'm going to review the first. So traditionally, sports are steadfast and resolute in their structure and mechanics. And video games are in fact a means to stimulate and not a means to structure proper mechanics of one's ability. My simple definition is that sports require a certain level of physical exertion, and it must include an element of defense. And you don't find that in video games. To be a sport, you should have the ability to physically stop your opponent from winning, physically. And you require to physically overcome your opponent's efforts to prevent you from winning. That's the main claim of what a sport entails. So my evidence against this point is regarding the first claim. It comes from a study based from Louisiana University study on the effects that sports are based around the exertion of physical ability. They claim that sports is a major link between health and well-being. And you don't find that again in video games. And the reasonings behind this, the report from the United States, the United Nations Interagency Task Force on Sports for Development and Peace states that young people can benefit from physical activity as it contributes to developing healthy bones, efficient heart and lung function, as well as improved motor skills and cognitive function. Physical activity can also prevent hip fractures among women and reduce effects of osteoporosis. And again, you can't get that from video games. My counterclaim for this, one of the most widely used definitions of that is the WHO, and they stated which defines health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely an absence of disease or infirmary. This definition goes well beyond a condition of physical health, but includes mental health and general well-being. My response to the secondary claim that esports meets these criteria, again, they do not. During recent decades, there have been progressive decline in the level of physical activity in people's daily lives in developed countries like America. For a majority of people, little physical effort is involved anymore in their work, the chores like transportation and leisure. Specific health risks differ between countries and regions, and this fact remains. So physical inactivity is a major risk factor for most common communicable diseases, and physical activity can counteract many of the ill effects of inactivity. And the reason for challenging that esports meets these criteria was based on the topic. They require teamwork, and that does stand still for esports. They do require a lot of teamwork, but it's not the promotion of healthy lifestyle choices among children and young people as what the sports define, what I defined in my earlier topic. So my counterclaim for the second one, 2 minutes left. A number of factors influence the way sports and physical activity impact on health in different populations. Sports and physical activity in itself may not directly lead to benefits, but in combination with other factors can promote healthy lifestyles, unlike sitting down and playing for a couple hours video games. There is evidence to suggest that changes in the environment can have a significant impact on the opportunities for participation. In addition, the conditions under which the activity is taking place can heavily impact healthier outcomes. Elements that this may determines on health include nutrition, intensity, and type of physical activity, different kinds of things like appropriate like footwear, like clothing. These don't sit well when it comes to video games. It's a completely different kind of culture. So my response to my secondary claim, my third claim, that sports don't have physical interaction. The challenges of this is the use of sports as a tool to communicate is very underappreciated, And teamwork can really be built through people getting together and actually bouncing ideas up, everybody using teamwork in the sense of physical interaction. You don't get that from video games. My reasoning challenges is my counter debate is that he said that chess can be considered a sport, however it does not promote health for when you sit down and your brain is playing chess. And you use your brain while playing chess and not exerting physical ability. Counterpoint for that, sports and physical activity is long being used as a tool to improve mental, physical, and social well-being. Physical inactivity is a major risk factor associated with large numbers of lifestyle diseases such as cardiovascular disease, cancer, diabetes, and obesity. Thank you.
All right, structurally, I think you're okay. It's pretty easy to follow those sorts of things, but sometimes your secondary points are a little bit ambiguous. I think it comes down to something pretty simple. You have a difference of opinion about what defines sports, and your point of view requires that it has some physical activity. The absence of physical activity is sufficient to say that it is not something that constitutes a sport, and there's no benefit physically from the e-games that they're talking about. Everything else is kind of superfluous. You're going in circles making some of those points, but let's keep it pretty straightforward. That's what your argument is. And so an oral argument ought to be pretty clear on that. So why is the definition that the advocate presented insufficient? It's too inclusive. It doesn't include a physical component. I don't even remember that there was a particular source that defined what a sport was, if it was something that he invented on his own in order to support this particular point. And then you come back and say, the World Health Organization, the United States Department of Education, all these other organizations, they define sports as having some physical component. Now, where is there any demonstration that there's a physical component in these e-games? There isn't any. That's in essence your argument. Everything else is you're trying to intellectualize something that is pretty straightforward here, and I don't think that it helps you. It makes it sound like you are, writing some kind of a brief for a legal presentation rather than making an oral argument on whether or not this is true. I did think that you had some good information in your argument talking about why physical activity is important, that the physical activity is the thing that gives the sport its uniqueness. I think that those are important pieces of information, and that the absence of physical activity is problematic, and esports, in fact, have a lack of physical activity. Although there's a presupposition on that, I think that needs to be developed a little bit more. I think you need to have some evidence that talks about that. I don't know how many calories you burn an hour playing some of these esports. My guess would be not a lot. And in fact, if you can eat while you're playing a sport, I'm not exactly sure it's a sport. So that's one of those things. You don't see a lot of people having dinner while they're playing baseball or football, but you might see that while people are playing, these video games, that sort of thing. So I think you got the right idea. I think you're trying to intellectualize it too much. Keep it simple.